Hello, everyone. I'm Thomas Blomberg, Senior Product Manager for TIBCO Spotfire. And I'm delighted to be here to present what's new in our latest release, Spotfire 11.1. And 11.1 is a release showing a really good example of hyperconverged analytics. So I would like to take the opportunity to say a few words about what we mean with hyperconverged analytics. And right after that, I will show you what's new in 11.1. So hyperconverged analytics. This was announced last year. And what it really means is that we see a trend of visual analytics, data science, and streaming capabilities coming together, working together, enabling you to solve harder problems together. And TIBCO, we are on a mission to provide a seamless experience that delivers immersive, which means these tools and capabilities works great together, but they provide one lens, if you will, and makes it really easy to solve your problems using these three capabilities. They're also smart, which means in TIBCO terms and Spotfire terms that we use AI. We use AI to create easy to use features. We use AI to provide everything from machine learning to data wrangling. And they're smart in as many ways as possible. And last but not least, they're real time. Being TIBCO, you need that 2-second advantage. You need those events to be there right now so you can make decisions as quickly as possible in real time. So this is what we think about when we say and talk about hyperconverged analytics. And in a moment, I will show you how 11.1 really adds to the hyperconverged direction. I would also like to say a few words about technologies. We see human insights, data, automation, machine learning coming together. We see that machine learning without human insights is not really that valuable. You can do it. You can create real advanced machine learning and scoring and whatnot. But without that human insight, take action or show the value of it, it's only worth so much. Data becoming more complex, always increasing in size, always coming from new sources, new source type, formats. And you really need to add, for example, the automation part of it to either stream data, ingest data in an automated fashion, or add data to your data at rest using a schedule and automation. And of course, monitor that and make sure that the human is part of everything. So technologies are converging, and so are personas. So we see that data engineers, data architects, for example, are also analysts. In Spotfire, we often refer to that as inline data wrangling, where analysts or data engineers and architects are really making sure they have done the correct thing by using analysts, using visualizations, making sure that the data wrangling was done correctly. A data scientist, of course, you need to have domain expertise to be able to develop those models to be a data scientist. And of course, you put analysis and visual data discovery on top of that. So personas are coming together, they're really converging, and so are technologies. We are not the only one seeing this trend. We see this report from Gartner, for example, where they see worlds of analytics, BI, and data science collide. And in TIBCO, we see this in of course, Spotfire, TIBCO data science products, the data visualization platform, and AI inside of these platforms working together is really driving this convergence. We also work very closely with cloud vendors. We see that, for example, with the work we do with AWS SageMaker, where cloud vendors provide building blocks that help us enable the best of breed BI analytics, data science, and data management. In other words, we are vendor agnostic. You can trust TIBCO to cooperate and partner and integrate with these capabilities provided by the cloud vendors out there. And TIBCO, we are well positioned to do this, to blend data integration and analytics with in-motion data, real-time data, as well as at-rest data. A few examples of the enabling technology. AI, we have seen that a lot in the last slides, but the AI engines, everything from Spotfire recommendations to AutoML are really immersed in AI. We also see collaboration. We see TIBCO Data Science as a great example of that, where collaboration is really key to be successful in, for example, developing models and govern, monitor models. Interoperability, I will show you an example of that in a few moments. Spotfire data functions, that's really one of the main pillars of achieving this. We see the use of data functions increasing. We see releases like Spotfire 11.0, where we added a favorites menu for Spotfire data functions, just to make it easier for everyone to use and leverage the power of data functions. And we see that going forward, and that more and more will be used, more will be enabled through the data functions framework. Spotfire mods, of course, the signature feature of 11.0. This is where you can really put that last piece of the hyperconverged puzzle together, where you can surface what you have discovered in a domain adapted experience, where you can have those custom visualizations that really makes everyone understand what you're trying to achieve and communicate and gain insight. TIBCO Model Ops is another area within TIBCO where you investing a lot in this area, and it all comes down to not only creating and developing models, but also govern them, monitor them, improve them over time, make sure people are using the correct models at the correct time, always knowing where to go to find that correct model to use, for example, with their analysis. And cloud services, of course, TIBCO products, all are available on premises, most are available on cloud, and we're really used to operating in a hybrid cloud environment and using TIBCO cloud services, but also cloud services from our partners, AWS, Azure, and GCP. All right, so Hyperconverged Analytics, how is that shown in Spotfire 11.1? It's shown in a new feature, a new integration, a new way of using TIBCO cloud data streams from within Spotfire. So if you're new to TIBCO cloud data streams, it's a really easy to use, probably one of the market's easiest to use ways of accessing and analyzing streaming and event data. It's designed from the ground up to democratize development and use of real-time data. It's a SaaS cloud service. It's hosted by TIBCO, available to anyone. And it basically enables you to connect to real-time data in minutes and create those dynamic interactive live streaming dashboards. You used to connect to it using the classic TIBCO connector for TIBCO Spotfire data streams. It's great, it works, it's robust, but it's not really high converged. Instead, we have integrated it into the flyout of Spotfire. It's on the same level as the Spotfire library. Your streaming data is just as easily accessible as you would open a local file or open something from the library. It's really that easy. To show this, I would like to demo, first of all, TIBCO Cloud Data Streams, and this is the front end of that. This is where you use your streams. This is where you monitor them. This is where you create them. This is where you use the beautiful and easy to use wizard. This is where you can connect to TIBCO Cloud Messaging, Kafka, even files, and MQTT. This is also where we have 2 sample data sources, and I really recommend you to try these. I will show you later on how to sign up for a trial, and we encourage you to do that to get familiar with TIBCO Cloud Data Streams and the new feature in 11.1. And these sample data sources are really just a few clicks away, and that's what I'm using in this demo. So as you can see, I have one car data stream running It has a green light. A colleague of mine is using the Open Sky demo right here. And I just started the Open Sky demo as well. And you can see that it's starting. It takes a couple of minutes to start, which is nothing considering that streams are really intended to be long-lived and always available. So if we go to the TIBCO Cloud Spotfire side, and I should mention that this feature is available in TIBCO Cloud Spotfire. So for on-premises use the classic connector to connect to your streams. It works, but it's not as seamless and hyper-converged as the new experience, which will soon be available on TIBCO Cloud Spotfire, hopefully by tomorrow. So what you do is you go to the flyout and you can see that you have the usual connectors, you have local files, and you have TIBCO Cloud data streams. And you can see that the streams are listed here. It's the same view as in TCDS over here. So we can see 3 streams, 2 active and 1 is starting up. And you can see that we have access to all that metadata also on the Spotfire side. And we can even see that this stream is not running. So of course we shouldn't try to connect to it. Instead, we can connect to the car data stream, just like that. And then we will be able to browse the metadata. We could deselect columns, we can do a preview, and we can click OK to select if we would like to keep data external, which is in many cases what we would like to do, because the external option is what will provide us with live real-time visualizations. But we could also import data, do an extract of those events into Spotfire's in-memory engine. In this demo, let's keep it external. And here we are. We have the metadata loaded, have all the columns available, and we can go ahead and create that first line chart and look at some race car data, for example, brake temperature and tire temperature. And you can see that's moving. It's now feeding data is fed from TCDS into Spotfire in real time, just like that. So I know I said something like 6 clicks to connect to the stream. So let's see if we can achieve that. Let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. So 1 click would be to list my streams. Second would be a double click. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. And there's my first streaming visualization. Of course, you need to tweak it and tune it and show whatever you need. But basically 5 or 6 clicks and you have browsed your streams, found your stream, added it to the analysis and created the first visualization. So it can't be much easier than that to get started with streaming data. And all thanks to the great cooperation and work between TIBCO Cloud, TCDS team and the Spotfire team. So great work, everyone, achieving this. And here we see that the Open Sky stream has started. So if we go back to Spotfire, yeah, we see that the that stream is also available now. So we could add that as well. Okay. And once again, this is a cloud feature, TIBCO Cloud Spotfire. It's available within days, hopefully by tomorrow. Yeah, and please try it out. We have a trial request, so you can Google it or use this presentation, which will be shared. So just click the link here and request a trial for TCDS. There's also a trial toolkit, and there's a video on YouTube for how you can visualize Kafka data in 5 minutes. All right, moving on to the next Spotfire feature. And from now on, features are also available in the on-premises platform of Spotfire. And some of you may have seen 1 or too many notifications, especially when you work with data functions and data science. And now you can control if pop-ups should be on by default for certain user groups. So if you're an author, maybe you would like to see those so you don't miss any errors in what you're doing. But for your consumers, maybe you would like to suppress those messages by setting the new pop-up notification by default preference to off. we have deployed yet another driver and connector on typical Cloud Spotfire. So now you can connect, refresh, load data directly from MariaDB, which is great. And here's a direct link to all the data sources supported on typical Cloud. And currently there are 32 data sources listed. So when working with typical Cloud Spotfire, you can refresh, load, work with data from 32 data sources. This is another small but great feature. It has been available before, but it was slightly hidden in the data table properties dialog. And that is to select if a table should be shown in the user interface or not. Very often, data tables are used for data wrangling purposes, to prepare data, pivot, unpivot data, and they're not really intended to be visualized. So this feature is used a lot to hide those data tables from end users. And we have now enabled you to do that directly from the data canvas. So it's easier to find, less clicks, and hopefully more users will know that the feature exists. And hopefully analysis files will be cheaper and easier to maintain over time. We have also updated TER, Typical Enterprise Runtime for R, to version 6. We have added bioconductor R packages, and it's fully compatible with open source 4.02. And please, I encourage you to visit bit.ly/terdoc, a great go-to place for everything related to TER and all the documentation and whatnot. So if you're working with TER, writing data functions using TER, don't forget to visit this page. I would also like to point out excellent job made by our data science team. They are constantly adding and publishing new data functions written in both Python and TER on our community. So we have a data function library, and we also have typical exchange where you can find everything from heat maps, contour plots, random forest machine learning. So subscribe to these pages and check in now and then, because it's our ambition to publish more and more useful and reusable data functions here. Moving on to the server. As you know, TIBCO is vendor agnostic. We support all vendors, all clouds, and as many operating systems as possible. And with Spotfire 11.1, we now support SUSE 15 as a Linux operating system. So you can install the Spotfire server, stat services, TER, and the Spotfire servers for Python on SUSE 15. We also have added new commands for managing and administrating the Spotfire server. The first one is the possibility to gracefully shut down node manager services. So you can delay that. You don't need to initiate it directly. You can delay it, and you just enter a delay in seconds. And if you know that you will no longer use that node manager service, you can also add the delete flag to have it deleted. And it will wait for the sessions to be closed, your users to leave this node manager, and then it will gracefully shut it down and optionally also delete it. We have also added the ability to copy deployment areas using the command line. It could be used, like in this example, to create a backup of your production area. So you could script that, automate that, make sure you have a backup. You can also export distributions, which is really cool. If you have a complex deployment area with a lot of extensions and whatnot added to it, which is increasing with mods and your custom Python interpreters, for example. Deployment areas are not that easy to recreate anymore. So it could be a good idea to actually distribute it, save some time when you're using multiple servers and deployment areas, export those to an SDN file and deploy that single file to another deployment area. So great feature, and yeah, ability to automate even more. I would also remind you that 11.1 is a mainstream release. So Spotfire 10.10 is still the most recent long-term support release. So be aware of that. You have a link here to learn more about the difference and how long each release is supported, etc. This is just a collection of everything that's new, or even, there are probably even more features, but as many as possible are added on to this slide. Everything new since 10.3 to 10.10 LTS, and then we have a new slide of everything new after 10.10 LTS. And the list has already become quite large. We keep adding features to this list. More Spotfire 11 resources. I have worked with our marketing team, so we have created the What's New page on tipco.com is already available. And we also have a webinar series. We started that with mods and all the great features released in 11.0, and we are continuing to add more webinars to that. So there will be a webinar coming focusing on data streams. So keep an eye on that page. And with that, thank you.